All right. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. So this is our public information meeting for the upcoming Main Street projects. So we're going to just talk about the project overall, but there's two big goals that we're trying to achieve today. And one is just the information about the project and what's happening and what the construction schedule and the timeline is going to look like. And then for those of you, like particularly the businesses from the downtown, we want to talk to you one-on-one and find out things like what's your delivery schedule and how we're going to help you make sure you get deliveries and things like that. So I'm Sarah Granger. I'm the city engineer and the director of public works. And I have a team here today with me. And the reason they're here is because they're a part of the construction process. So these folks were not in the design of the project, but they are who's going to help us through the project, right? So I'll let Jeff introduce himself.
My name is Jeff Merton. I'm with ISG. I will, like Sarah said, be doing the construction inspection and construction administration, coordinating between business owners and contractor as we go through this.
Josh Ayler. I am from Chippewa Concrete Services. We are the prime contractor on this job. So I'm the project manager.
Awesome. So you'll be seeing a lot of Jeff, and you can always contact myself or Jeff, but we can certainly make sure if you ever have needs, we get them addressed. Okay, so I briefly just wanted to go through where we came from in all of this. So this has been decades, years of going through with public concern about crossing Main Street and speeds of the highway on Main Street. And so we had a long-term conversation with the DOT in particular, because our Main Street is not just for us, right? It is a state highway and we have to comply with what the DOT requirements are. So we can't just move the traffic light. That has to be something that the DOT approves or is initiated by the DOT. And so for a really long time, there didn't seem to be a lot of changes that could be made to improve the situation for crossings in particular, but in just the safety of the downtown. And in 2015, we had the TID 6 downtown planning meeting. And one of the things we did was identify what people considered dangerous intersections in the downtown, and all of Main Street was the highest ranking of concern. So that's kind of the mode of operation for a really long time. And then in 2019, we had a meeting with the DOT to try to figure out what can we do to help the situation. And they said, well, maybe you need to look at some of these new ideas that are coming forward in the design world. And that is why you saw these two projects that have happened, right? Well, last year there was the conversion to the two-way left-hand turn lane. So instead of 4 lanes, there's now 3. And then also the work that we're going to be doing downtown this year. So we were really excited that there was something now that there can be safety improvements in the downtown. And so we hired Strand and Associates, and they've done a number of studies for us. The corridor evaluation was where it started, and it started from the conversations that we had with the DOT with their ideas about how that we could improve the flow and the safety of traveling downtown. And so obviously these things don't come without a price tag. And so that was a really big part of it was, okay, DOT, you're suggesting we make these changes. How are we going to pay for it? And they came forward with some pretty significant grants for both of the projects. So last year's project was a 90% construct or a 90% coverage of the project, which is a really huge amount. And this year's the TAP, the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is, I guess, most notably combined with the Safe Routes to School program about how to get kids to school. And they gave us an 80-20 grant. So that's another big amount of money that came from the DOT. And so just briefly, like why are we doing the things that we're doing? And I'll show you in these following slides. But the idea is that the bump outs are shortening the crossing. So that improves one, just the amount that pedestrians need to cross, the distance that they have unprotected, but also the vehicles being able to see pedestrians better, right? So when I always think about crossing at Court Street right now, I'm at the bank and I'm kind of like sneaking past the cars to make sure that the cars can see me. That are driving down the street. And so this is what that improves, right? You're going to be on a sidewalk, a bump out to the point where you can see and they can see you. It's also intended to improve traffic flow in the downtown. So with these projects, it would be really great if we would have done all of them at the same time, but we just weren't able to do both projects in 1 year. And so right now, some of the things that we're experiencing is like the traffic backing up at Jefferson at the light. So that light is moving, and I'll show you that in some future slides. Also, one of the big things I see all the time is the left-hand turn onto the side streets. And not necessarily at Jefferson, but at Court Street and Terhune, the traffic needs to stop behind the car who's turning left. And sometimes they stop, which, that obviously impedes flow, but sometimes the driver will drive around the car turning left, and that's a really dangerous move. So what we're trying to provide is the left-hand turn lane so that a left-hand turn is a safe turn. And then in general, promoting traffic calming. So just slowing down the speeds. We see that a lot on the HISIT project. When you have a narrower roadway, it's just instinct to drive slower. And I always say this is like phase 2 of a 3-phase project, because there's still an initiative to do improvements to beautify the downtown. So this gives us additional street space to further beautify in the downtown area. And one other thing that we see is that their curb ramps are going to be directionally placed, right? So no more of like kind of coming to the corner and then being pushed into the corner of an intersection. You'll have a one way or another to be able to cross. So that's a safer crossing. So there's a lot here. And so what I've tried to do is just kind of briefly go through what the changes are. I encourage all of you to look at the website for more information. All of this stuff is on the website. You can always visit it. And the website is where we're going to continually put information. So I have over there a piece of paper. If people want to put their emails, I can put you on the email list and you'll automatically get updates. But if you don't want to add your email, we're going to be putting posts on the website, on Facebook, that'll just continually update people. I would say probably on a weekly basis or anytime anything major is happening. Okay, so this is the big change for the configuration. So when I talk about this, I always tell people, like, think about Court Street. Court Street is going to stay exactly how it is, right? And so what we're doing is we're mimicking Court Street. When we did the planning studies, Court Street was the most loved street on all of the downtown. Everybody loved how Court Street felt and the environment of placemaking. And so we're looking at that, and it also provides us a way to control the turning movements that happen on Main Street. So Court Street is going to stay the same, and Terhune is going to basically be a carbon copy of it. I will say that the west side of Terhune will look like that right away. The east side of Terhune is not wide enough yet. We're going to be doing a Center Street reconstruction project similar to what we did on Rock Avenue. That's coming in 2025 or 26. And at that time, we'll widen it enough, and then it'll look just like Court Street does. And then Jefferson is going to be coming in. So because we want to alternate the one-way directions, right? So again, take Court Street and flip it towards the traffic towards Main Street, and that's what Jefferson will look like. And so the benefit of the one-way street, besides just controlling the traffic flow coming onto Main Street, is allowing for more parking. So if you think about Court Street, think about how many more vehicles you can get on a side street than if you're doing your parallel parking. And so that's the benefit that you'll see. So on East Jefferson will look like this. And I can certainly go through, like, some people have asked, like, I have a business next to Jefferson, for example, like Blue Dog. And we're talking about this today, like, which way is the angled parking? Is it on my side or another side? So we can certainly walk through all that with everyone if you don't want to look at the slides that we have online. So again, this is the other side of Jefferson. So up is north. And then, as I mentioned, West Terhune will be there automatically this year, but East Terhune will just take till the construction project comes. So I mentioned this, I feel like this is one of the major improvements for driving downtown is the left-hand turn bays. So hopefully you can tell by looking at the image, but the yellow is the straight through or turning right, right? So there's a lane on the outside of each side that you're either going straight or turning right. If you need to turn left, you're no longer going to be backing up traffic. If people don't have to drive around you in order to turn left, they'll have their own designated left-hand turn lane. And so this is what you'll see at Court Street and Terhune. So the other thing that we've heard for years is about making crosswalks more visible. And we've tried different styles of painting. I don't know if you've noticed, we had sort of like the zebra style of painting the angles. Then we went to the blocks where it's like alternating white rectangles as a crosswalk. But people felt like we still needed more. And so we're moving to a colored crosswalk. So the crosswalks are going to be a red concrete. And so those will be like that at the 3 intersections of Court, Jefferson, and Terhune. And so another really big change is that traffic signal at Jefferson. So when the DOT looked at, they said, why do you have a street light at Jefferson? It doesn't warrant a street light at all. And basically we said, we're not switching it unless you give us another one. Like we can't take away because people need to cross Main Street. We're crossing Main Street so hard. And so we do end up moving that to South Street, but because Jefferson has always served as such a major crossing point, we wanted to make sure there was still something there for pedestrians. And so you've seen the rapid flashing beacons that right now we installed them at Broadway. We have it at Oak, Maple. So this is what we're going to be seeing here at Jefferson. So that means that the pedestrian instigates the flashing light and the light will flash so that they can cross. And then, as I mentioned, we're moving that traffic signal from the current location at Jefferson down to South Street. And at South Street, so we do have, it will be a censored signal. So the signal will generally be on the main line green, right? Most of the traffic is going on Main Street, but when a car comes and sits at the intersection of South Street, it will trigger the light to turn. So the idea is that when we see those really big queues on South Street trying to cross, when I drive my kids to school, I often try to take this route and it is almost impossible to cross when it's busy. So the idea is that you will be able to cross freely. You'll also be able to just for those left-hand turns that end up backing up traffic there as well. And then obviously it's a signal, so you can turn right on red. So that right-hand turn will still be able to happen. And for those that are very interested in what is happening at the old City Hall site, because I get that question all the time. So there's a couple things, but what's happening immediately is we're moving that radius back further. So meaning the curb is going back into the property about 15 feet. And this is just largely due to that turn is just such a hard thing for the big trucks to navigate. And you can see that by our continued struggle to keep the signal in its place. So we have had it knocked down twice this year. Almost every year that signal goes down. We have been so fortunate that it has not hit anyone because that is a very heavy signal that falls. You can even see right now, I don't know how many times we've replaced the barrel that's on top of the pedestal. It just keeps getting hit. So we're trying really hard. So that is what's going to be happening right away here is changing that radius and making it so that the trucks can turn better at that corner. And also just being able, it's the wider radiuses are intended for easier turns. I guess the only big change would be that the push button, it will now be a standalone push button. So you'll be able to, the pedestrians won't have to go to the light itself, the light pole, it'll actually have a pedestal that you can push. So that's what's happening. And, we've had that information up for a while. Obviously good to share with the public over and over. But the big thing that we wanted to talk about today was what is going to happen to get there, right? Because that's obviously not easy. You see our neighbors going through the same thing to the north. And so we're always going to have Highway 14 open. So Main Street will always have traffic flowing. But what is not going to be there is the parking. So the parking is going to have to occur on the side streets. And so we've been working very diligently. So Strand put a lot of this together. Chippewa also is, we've been having meetings about like trying to work through all these fine details of how to keep the hospital access open and make sure that the, South Street, when we're working at South Street, that everybody can get into the clinic, that the emergency vehicles are coming. And even today we changed our plans slightly because we wanted to make sure that the hospital had proper access. But for the first part, we're going to have traffic on the outside lanes, and they're going to be working on those interior areas to change the color of the concrete. So again, parking on side streets. There will not be construction yet on the side streets, but they'll still be in that parallel configuration except for Court Street. And then, yes, I did get this right. Then we're going to move everything and have the traffic. No, I got it wrong, didn't I? You're doing the west side first. Okay, hold on. This one's the first one that's going to happen. We're moving all the traffic to the east side of the street and working on the west side of the street. So traffic will be side by side then instead of split. And then what I just showed you, the other side, we're going to flip to the other side and do the same configuration, but the traffic will be on the west. So I tried to do a little bit of color coding to make this helpful. It's easier to see online, but essentially what's happening is when we start working on those bump outs, we're doing it in 4 phases, 4 main phases. So it's going to start with the west side work. As you saw, we're moving the traffic onto the east side, and they're going to do the 2 bump outs at Court and Terhune. So there's going to intentionally staggering the work. And then they're going to switch, keep all the traffic on the same side and work on Jefferson and South Street. So as soon as these are in, they are now one-way streets because of the way the width is. There's about 22 feet, which is tight for 2-way traffic. So those will be converted right away. And so the other idea too is that when we get this there, if we can get the angled parking painted on, we're going to gain that parking so that parking that's lost on Main Street for the just for the construction part is going to be able to be better served on those other side streets. Then we're going to flip to the other side of the street. Oh, and I didn't change my phases. They're still in order. You can tell we changed this literally on the fly right before this meeting. So, South Street and Jefferson is going to go before because we want to make sure we maintain the access for the hospital. And then Terhune and Court Street are going to go together for the last of the quadrants or the bump outs. And let me see, when traffic is on the east side of the street, you're also going to do Decker Street. Yes. So you're going to do it when you do Jefferson and South. Yes. So we're always trying to make sure that it's every other block being worked on at one given time so that you're not going to run into 2 blocks at a time that are closed. Okay. That's really the slides that I have. Let's see, what are the other big highlights? Do we have any other big highlights to say? So we really want to make sure we're talking to people who have concerns about like what's happening. Again, how do I get deliveries to my property or, things that are infecting your business. We can certainly take comments, but our comments are really trying to focus on like how to best help everyone through construction. So you can certainly come up and talk to the group as a whole, but this would be now the time I would also encourage people to we can just stop the formalities and like be able to talk. And you can really grab any one of us. So Josh, Jeff. Yes, Nat. Yeah, so good one. Thank you. That's what I did not have up there. Okay, so we are not starting until after the fair, but the date that we're supposed to start is the 16th. So I will always say, Construction is always dependent on weather. So we are, the best laid plans are not always in stone, right? So, or some weird thing happens, a piece of equipment goes down or whatever. So, but that is the current schedule, is to start on the 16th. And everything's supposed to be finished by the end of November for the concrete work. So we do have an extended deadline on the traffic signals. There may need to be a temporary traffic signal depending on the lead time on some of the materials. We've had different answers about how long that might take. So if for some reason they're not in before the end of the season, we'd just have a temporary signal up. So yeah, good question. Yeah. Right. So it'll be closed on one side on both ways to cross. So people can cross across the other way on the other side of the street.
Let's
Right.
put back to your last slide. I
Oh.
think that might help show.
Yeah, you press your buttons and join. Go for it.
So
Jeff.
yeah, like as Sarah there explained, we're gonna do the two green intersections and the two yellow, alternating every other on each side of the road, so that there's always access to a block. We're never closing off both ends of a block. So, I mean, the path would be possibly around the block to get to a side if you need to cross, or go down to the other end of a block, but there will always be access open. It'll just be one end of the block, or the open end of the block, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're only working at the corners. Yeah. And so you'll always have access to be able to get in front of your property. Yeah. So parking will not be on Main Street at all. Mhm. I just want to just make sure until the project's over. I mean, once the project's over, we will actually have more parking on Main Street. Yeah. I will not officially say that that's where you can park.
Will there be?
Yeah. So we've had a lot of conversations about like what signage would be helpful. Originally we had it set up a little bit differently. And we thought maybe there wouldn't be a need for signs, but now with this configuration, I think there may be signs that say like parking on side streets. It's not as complicated as like how do I get to Main Street Station? Like you should always have access, and it should be obvious that they can park on the side streets. So yes, we'll have to have something that makes sure we're really getting the word out about parking on the side streets. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Good.
There will be pedestrian detour signage in place. It'll show you around the block to the access to the front.
Yeah. It'll be like a sidewalk closed ahead, cross here. So when you're at the side of the block that's open, it'll tell you to cross here if you're trying to get to the other side before you get up to the closed area.
Yeah. Right. Sure. I see somebody in the very back, but I can't. Oh, Oli. Yeah. Hi, Oli.
Two questions. First of all, West South Street right now does not have parking on one side. So it's a narrower street. Is there any plans on widening that street with the addition of the stoplight? And then secondly, the Jefferson Street stoplight does not have any direct access or to any of the businesses on those four corners other than the parking lot in the former Dolph Army. So now the South Street one is gonna have, it's gonna impact the Dairy Queen, it's gonna impact the Cheese Corner, it's gonna impact the Clinic. So I know it's hard to ask a question like this, what kind of economic impact is that gonna have on the business? If they can't get cars in their parking. And I know it's, I don't have any affiliation with Dairy Queen anymore, but I know that's gonna affect their business. Because we've had an agreement where we can park on the opposite side of the street to unload semis from. And that's gonna have to go away, I assume, when they stop. So, again, I don't have any affiliation, but I'm just posing the question. Because east or west South Street is a narrow street.
Yeah.
Right now, there's only parking on one side.
Correct. So there's no current plan to change the width of South Street, West South Street. You're right, there's parking on one side, but no parking on the other. If there's a concern about how congested that is, it's always an option to not have parking on the other, but we try to keep it open as much as we can. So I think it would need to be shown and proven that it's too congested before there would be any change like that. In terms of we're really, it's, the question has been posed a lot about how the traffic will change on South Street and with the signal. And it's always interesting to see until it actually happens. But what the engineers have felt was that the signal being called upon by the traffic, right? So like the traffic instigates the light to turn will actually possibly alleviate more of the backups than you're seeing now, because like, especially like when school gets out or something like that, there can be, multiple cars backing up there trying to cross and just not being able to have the opportunity to cross. Now the light will stop for you. I mean, you're going to get a green light and you're going to be able to freely cross the street or turn left. Always right, obviously, but I guess it's not considered currently that it's actually going to make the situation worse, but it's going to make it better. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So the question was about for Cheese Corner and their curb. And we can continue this, but feel free, like we can stop and just have one-on-one conversations too. But so the question, yeah, they currently don't have curb, like a true curb on the side of their building. I don't believe we're actually going into it in this project, but what we need to talk about was the future project that we do on, actually, no, I lied. That doesn't even go into South Street. At some point in the future, that street's in really bad shape. So there will be a reconstruction project. That would be when, but not with this project. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know enough about exactly how everything's happening right now, but I mean, there's a light that's changing, but like how the streetscape isn't changing. So, yeah, but we could certainly talk through that. And actually, with the police chief too. One of the things I hear when I hear a lot of this is like, there's a lot of, not necessarily like proper protocols. And so we want to make sure that the police chief's on board with whatever is happening for deliveries as well, right? Deanne, I see you, but I know there was someone behind you that's also had their hand up for a while. Ruthie. Hi, Ruthie.
Well, I have two questions also. I'll start with mine and then I'll do the loops, but obviously parking everyone's favorite topic. The lot that's right by the cafe and the Tea Cafe, Mr. Hughes is already a very unmonitored lot. And I'm assuming that's going to be a spot where people will also look hard. Are there any plans to start monitoring some of these spots a little bit better so that we don't have to pump 48-hour cars there when other people are?
Right.
Do that.
Yeah, that's certainly a police department question, but I will talk to them about it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Second, let us know if there has been constant monitoring.
Sure. So the width is the same as a parked car being on the street still, right? So if they could get through, well, if there's cars parked on Main Street, they still will be able to. And it's only just those small areas, those intersections, right? The bump outs, yeah, yeah. In terms of like turning on Decker, obviously we're improving the situation there. Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's another thing about for emergency services too. We want to make sure that they can keep flowing through as well.
So because we're not gonna be able to have deliveries accessible off of Main Street, a lot more large style deliveries are gonna be taking place in that block to the extent
Sure.
that some of the parking might have to actually get temporarily taken out. I only just throw this out
Yeah.
for consideration, just because it's already a very busy lot with a lot of large trucks, my trucks. You know, the hotel delivery trucks, food trucks. for the
Yeah.
Cafe, you know, a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
That maybe people aren't necessarily aware of.
Mhm.
So, and there are people that kind of park in that lot long-term rather than, you know, sort of the 12-hour limit or whatever they all, but anyway, long story short, just to throw that in there.
Yeah.
You know, there's just gonna be a lot of large truck traffic through that lot to service our core businesses, you know, and some of that, you know, if it's on Main Street, then you take all that off.
Yeah.
Likely off Main and off Port Street, it's all gonna be all in the back of those, our businesses.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, this is exactly the conversation that I want to make sure we have and these folks here too, right? Because like they're, you know, doing the work and trying to organize the work. But we could certainly talk about if that would relieve some of those issues, how that works. Deanne, I don't want to miss you because I know you had your hand up. Okay. Yes. There'll be a left-hand turn lane like there is now, but it's just painted. Like it's, let me just see if I have. Oh. No, it doesn't have so there's nothing really, like at South Street, the physical, like there's gonna be a light and but the physical curb, that kind of thing really doesn't change. There's work happening on it, but it's all related to making sure that the curb ramps are ADA compliant. Yeah, so you're not, if you can do it now, you'll be able to do it then. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, do not do that. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that the other night. Was how are we going to go through the maintenance of it? I would say they're a little bit beyond your normal citizen responsibility. So in terms of your delivery, so long term, we have the ability to decide how we're going to have parking on Main Street. So the side streets are angled parking. That's going to be laid out as a part of the project. But we've always painted the Main Street parking ourselves at the city. And so we have some flexibility about how we're doing it. And it's obvious, like for you guys, Rockweilers, like that area where you don't have any, it's supposed to be like a turning area, but you're using it. You know, we obviously need to accommodate you guys. So long-term, we should certainly have that conversation. And in my mind, at least one on either side of Main Street needs to exist in the core area, right? Like a loading zone. Yes, don't have your driver block Main Street. I don't know if, I'm looking down the way because, there, Should I say, is there any consideration for deliveries, given that you're not working the entire length of the block? So that doesn't seem like a really great idea. So that would be last resort. Yeah, we don't want to impede traffic at all for sure. Certainly trying to work on the side streets in the back areas. Like for example, I don't know if it was the Driftless delivery today, but I saw them like they pulled it into Thorson's parking lot to get their delivery. I think we're just gonna have to really work together as a community and try to like figure out where empty spots are, like who's not using their lot, and being able to try to get those deliveries in. But that's what we need to have, is that constant communication. So like, when are your after, when are your deliveries? How often do they come? I know sometimes you don't know, the driver isn't consistent or the delivery is not consistent, but communication is just like, we'll have to make it work. It is now. Yeah. It wasn't back in 2000 and up to, 2 years ago, right? So we did a lot of public input. We had the Vanderwall Association was a planning group. We had a number of public meetings. We had surveys that went out, online surveys. We did a lot to communicate with both the Main Street and the businesses. So right now, it's not a point where we change things, but we did have those opportunities. Yeah.
So real quick, just we do, I think a lot of stuff. The person, that's totally what he was speaking to.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard so early in that last one for myself.
Cars, that bus designed for cars.
Right. So being able to have like, let's actually look at lot 50, especially when.
Yeah.
Trucks, maybe take down a couple spots, even just for a bit, so that you guys can. Get it done.
Sure. Well, and that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is where I started attending, this is where they recommend.
Yeah.
Something like that, together, and then we can actually do that.
Yeah, let's what, and I keep thinking Chamber would be a really great partner in all of this, because you're communicating with them probably even more than us. So, but yes, I think that's a great idea. Let's figure something out. Right.
And we obviously, I can tell you, like, Mondays are.
Right.
be off with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more we can get you guys off of like the streets and areas, that would be a win for everyone. So, yeah. And I like the point you made. So we struggle and go back and forth about like how to schedule everything and stage everything. But it's a fine balance between, we don't want to be in your space forever. We want to get in and out, but we also want to make sure your operations are happening. And so we are trying to like figure out how to not be there too long, get the job done, but keep you guys running. So yeah, well, that's good.
Done by holiday.
We will not be able to fight weather. So if we end up having a super cold winter that comes super early, we're going to end up having to stop, but we're hoping not. And I've gone through this conversation a lot, and the DOT, when I said, oh, we're starting late, and they said, this isn't late. So, I mean, it happens, but we do have to be mindful of the winter. I mean, it's coming, right? Hopefully not right away. But yeah. Hey, Dad. Oh boy, I had that. I feel like it was like plus. Oh, I wanted to say 7. I have a chart somewhere that says exactly how many. I can get you that answer later, but yes, it's a net positive. Yeah. So.
I think I forgot all the.
Oh no. Sure. Yep. You really, like, your storefronts should not have any change. I mean, you're gonna have access on the sidewalk right up to your properties, so yeah, that should not be an issue. And we'll work with them if for some reason there's something odd that we don't foresee.
Yes. The real estate stuff. Will they be included in rural code?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not been in contact with UPS. They're gonna, yeah, you're right. That's a consideration to figure out how to work that out. So feel free to stay and talk to us, especially if you have like a burning question about your business that we haven't addressed or your property. But if not, please sign up if you want to get an email online on the website. There's the email address. You can fill it in and it'll automatically add you to the list. Let's see what else. We have a QR code. So here's my contact information. Got my contact information, so my phone number and my email address, that's online as well, but we also have a QR code, which is super handy to get to the website, or just go on to the website. There's a main link on the front page of the city website. It says Highway 14 Main Street Improvements, and you can click on it and all of that information comes. So. Yeah, well, oh. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Shoveling, yeah, on that. I need to. Yeah. Right. You've had a bump out for a long time. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I will get an official answer on that, but I agree. I can understand what you mean. I mean, it's a part of the road really about where we're having people cross. So yeah. Yeah, I'll work that out and get an answer for you. Yeah. A doll. No, that's not a city lot. What's the third one? Why can't I think about it? Eagles. Yeah. Those are the 3 city lots.
So Eagle,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I will say one of the cool things that Vanderwall did, they did a lot of that planning firm that looked at the downtown. They did a lot of work about like figuring out parking scenarios. And so I think there's some interesting ideas they presented, but we hopefully will explore in the future as a city about like how to use the space effectively, because there'll be whole lots empty for a whole periods of time and, you know, trying to figure out how to work together there.
it'd be cool if you had signs that said city parking lot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
There's a lot for this year.
right. We've had a lot of conversations about how to make the parking lots downtown better and, you know, just so much to bite off, right? So I would say in the future, we certainly have more work on the parking lots downtown but yeah, haven't got there yet. Yeah, that's a good idea. Right. Parking here. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good input for the signage that needs to happen.
For the business, say parking in rear, like the biking.
Sure. Yeah. If you have your own parking lot, by all means, make people aware of where that is. Yeah. The entrance to the park? No, that stays the same. And that'll be open the whole time. There'll be work on that corner and there might be access only from the east side of South Street, but that will be open. Yeah. All right. Like I said, thank you so much. Come talk to us if you want. Otherwise, keep connected. Thank you.